You're right, you do need to stand back and ask yourself the question, what was the problem that you're trying to stop? The problem was that too many of these banks took on risks they didn't understand and they didn't quantify. But that is what you're trying to stop, and it isn't...
But the reason they did that, isn't it, is because an incoming Labour government, Gordon Brown as Chancellor, were seduced by the city, were seduced by the idea that London would be this huge financial centre. You were in love with the city, and in that sense you weren't critical enough early enough.
No, I just think that is just plain nonsense. And when you think about it, about 1 million people are employed in the financial services sector in this country, 70% of them outside London actually. They're in the banks, insurance companies, pension provision, lawyers, accountants. They actually provide good quality employment. Now, I think it is quite wrong to argue that somehow we should say, OK, we can do without that. That is just nonsense.
Chancellor, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, after speaking to Alistair Darling, I asked the French Finance Minister, Christine Legarde, in an exclusive interview for Newsnight, if she accepted his view that a cap on bonuses is unenforceable.
Enforceability is a matter of determination, because there are always ways to be found. And we are determined to change the rules. What happened 12 months ago was just horrible for our societies, it was horrible for our economies, and we're still suffering as a result. Nobody wants this thing to happen again. And if we want to avoid the recurrence of the crisis, we need to change the rules. Everybody knows that the compensation of someone is a driver for that person's behaviour. So we need to look at compensation. And frankly, I would be surprised that the excellent common law system of the UK does not find ways to make a collective determination enforceable.
OK, well, let's just take one area of that. In the new world, are signing on bonuses unrelated to performance acceptable or not?
They are not. They are not, for one very simple reason. Remuneration should be associated with performance. If you don't perform, you don't have a bonus. If you perform, you have a bonus, and that bonus should be sensible.
Right, well, let's take you back to the Chancellor then. As you know, RBS is overwhelmingly publicly owned. The new head of retail banking 2 weeks ago was taken on, verified by RBS and admitted to by the Chancellor today, was taken on, part of the deal was a £1 million bonus paid in shares after 2 years, whether or not he performs. Does that send the wrong signal?
I personally think that it does.
So if that is the culture, you can't expect the Chancellor to say that it's enforceable to have a cap on bonuses. Clearly that is not going to be the way in the United Kingdom.
But who wants the crisis to happen again? All right? That crisis was not good for the financial sector, was not good for the economy, was not good for society.
But if Timothy Geithner says that the Americans are not going to sign up to capping bonuses, if the Americans don't come on board, if the British don't come on board, you don't have a global deal.
I'd be very surprised if public opinions in those countries were so tolerant to accept that after having expensed so much public money, so few people can get away with massive bonuses in excess of £1 million or more.
But if they don't sign up to this, is France going to be prepared to go it alone in bonuses, because aren't your bankers just going to run to another country?
President Sarkozy was very, very determined, I can assure you, to enforce rules that would guarantee the security and the solidity not only of the financial sector, but of society and of our economies. So I'm not prepared to give up. I'm not that type. So I'm going to convince my friends and colleagues, for whom I have huge respect, that it's in our interest, it's in our collective interest and the interest of societies that we put in place principles according to our respective systems that guarantee that bonuses are paid in accordance with performance, that there is deferred payment over time, that there are clawback provisions, and so on and so forth. We have plenty to discuss.
But if you don't get it, but if you don't get that global arrangement, France presumably can't keep penalising workers in the financial sector.
I'm not prepared to admit that I will not get it.
Finally, Madame Legarde, you'll know that the chief economist of the OECD looking at Britain, they said, the overemphasis on the financial sector here made it tougher for us, and it didn't have the same mixed economy as, for example, France and Germany has had. Do you think, looking in, is Britain over-reliant on the financial sector?
Any sector that is too big is exposing a country to high risk, high rewards. What needs to happen is proper rules that will actually protect and secure, one, the attractiveness of the city, but two, more importantly, in my view, the security of the people.
You talked about citizens of all countries looking for better behaviour and looking to people like you to deliver it. If you don't deliver a deal, if you don't deliver a global deal, you've failed.
Then I should go.
Would you? Would you go?
I'm not prepared to give up. That's all I can say at the moment.
Madam Legarde, thank you very much. Well, I'm joined by our economics editor, Paul Mason. Paul, how big a difference is this between the British and French over bonus culture?
Well, let's be clear, they sign a letter on a fairly minimum programme of bonus reform yesterday, and then the two finance ministers give diametrically opposite answers to the very simple question, what should be done about this guy and his guaranteed bonus in RBS? And that's one of the things that they were supposed to agree on. We were wondering whether there would be a row, and Newsnight seems to have facilitated it. Now, the wider issue is this. The briefing coming out of the UK government is that is all populism, populist knee-jerk reaction, and that the Brits are doing it in a more responsible way. But if it really is impossible to rein in bonuses, then there are parts of the British financial establishment that would think that was a problem. Adair Turner's report, not his personal comments he did in the Prospect interview, but his report he did for the government, says very clearly he thinks there's a link between high bonuses, illusory profits, and the too big status of the city in the British economy. And if you can't do anything about bonuses, if you believe that thesis, then you can't do anything about the fundamental problem.
Paul, thank you.